The humid air, rich with the scent of alien blossoms and nutrient-laced soil, clung to Cale's skin as he meticulously pruned a vine that glowed with soft, bioluminescent pulses. His calloused fingers, stained green from a day of cultivating, moved with practiced grace, a stark contrast to the advanced biodomes stretching around him. This wasn't merely a garden, it was his sanctuary, a vibrant, living tapestry of xenobotanicals he had painstakingly nurtured on this frontier world. He hummed a tuneless melody, a quiet echo in the vast, self-sustaining habitat, completely unaware of the two elegant figures, almost imperceptible against the shimmering flora, who watched his every movement from a concealed vantage point. Their presence, a silent thrum of curiosity and something deeper, hung in the air, a secret shared only between them and the whispering leaves. Cale, a young man scarred less by age and more by the lingering chill of orphanhood from a forgotten conflict, had found solace and purpose here. This biodome, a marvel of human ingenuity, was his entire world. After the war had claimed everything he knew, science had offered a new path, and xenobotany, with its endless mysteries and vibrant life, had become his quiet obsession. His days unfolded in a predictable rhythm, tending to his exotic plants, calibrating environmental controls, analyzing new specimens, and meticulously recording every minute detail. He was a creature of routine, finding comfort in the predictable cycles of growth and decay, a stark contrast to the chaos of his early life. Each leaf, each root, told a story, and Cale, with his keen scientific mind and gentle touch, was their devoted interpreter. The biodome was a testament to humanity's resilience, but for Cale, it was simply home. Recently, however, a subtle discord had begun to disrupt his finely tuned existence. Small, unexplainable anomalies had surfaced, like ripples in a calm pond. A specialized grafting tool, which he always placed back in its designated slot with almost ritualistic precision, would occasionally appear on his workbench, slightly askew. Then there were the unusual energy signatures, fleeting blips on his habitat's diagnostic console that vanished before he could triangulate their source. He'd initially dismissed them as minor system glitches, the inevitable wear and tear of advanced machinery operating in isolation. But the most unsettling of these incidents was the faint, sweet aroma that sometimes permeated the air, a scent unlike any of his carefully catalogued flora, ephemeral yet distinct. It smelled of rich earth and blooming night flowers, a fragrance that tickled his memory but remained stubbornly unidentifiable. A growing unease began to settle in his gut, a prickling sensation that told him something was amiss. The anomalies, though individually minor, collectively painted a picture that his logical mind struggled to reconcile with the isolated reality of his biodome. He walked through his vast enclosures, checking sensors, double-checking logs, searching for a rational explanation. The environment was stable, the systems reported no errors, yet the unexplained occurrences persisted. The quiet routine that had once been his comfort now felt subtly invaded, and the solitude, once a balm, now felt like a spotlight. He reassured himself it was just his imagination, a consequence of too much isolation, but the persistent, sweet aroma, now a little stronger, a little closer, whispered otherwise. His peaceful existence was on the brink of an unexpected discovery. Don't miss this incredible story of discovery and connection. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. The sweet aroma, once a whisper, grew into a tantalizing presence, urging Cale to acknowledge that his quiet routine was indeed being systematically, albeit gently, dismantled. The subtle anomalies escalated, shedding their ambiguity and evolving into clear, undeniable signs of an external, intelligent presence. He discovered exquisite, tiny carvings etched into the polished synthwood of his workbench, intricate patterns that resembled microscopic constellations, appearing overnight in places he'd sworn were pristine hours before. These weren't random scratches. They were deliberate artistry, too precise to be mere coincidence. Then came the peculiar glowing moss, shimmering with an ethereal, cool blue light, inexplicably thriving in a section of his garden designated for arid climate succulents, a clear biological impossibility. His specialized nutrient solutions, precisely measured and stored, were subtly depleted, not enough to trigger an alarm, but enough that Cale, with his meticulous tracking, noticed the discrepancies. These were not glitches, these were interventions. He began to feel a profound sense of being watched, a persistent, almost comforting warmth on the back of his neck, yet whenever he spun around, no one was there. The silence of the biodome, once a source of peace, now held a new, expectant quality. Determined to uncover the source of these increasingly specific intrusions, Cale decided to act. He spent a full cycle reconfiguring his internal security systems. Motion sensors, usually set for large-scale environmental shifts, were recalibrated to detect minute movements. Covert cameras, barely visible to the naked eye, were discreetly placed around his living quarters and the most frequented sections of his garden. He set digital tripwires and microscopic pressure plates, confident that whatever was entering his space would finally be revealed. He felt a thrill of scientific pursuit, mixed with a growing, unacknowledged loneliness that, perhaps, just perhaps, he wasn't as alone as he'd always believed. Observing Cale's preparations, two figures, sisters, moved with an almost liquid grace through the hidden pathways of the biodome. Ryla, with her keen observational mind, noted the human's heightened vigilance. Her sister, Sola, with her more empathetic nature, felt a pang of concern. They were beings of an advanced, incredibly ancient species, their forms elegant and attuned to the subtle energies of life. Their skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the ambient light, making them nearly invisible to Cale's crude optical sensors. Their interest in the human had begun as pure curiosity, a fascination with his dedication to the small, vibrant life forms he nurtured. But as they watched him, day after solitary day, a nascent, protective instinct had begun to stir within them. His quiet strength, his gentle touch with the plants, and the profound sadness that sometimes shadowed his eyes, had drawn them in. Their initial actions, the carved patterns, the gifts of glowing moss and siphoned nutrients, were tentative attempts at connection, small offerings born from a desire to interact with this unique, fragile creature. Cale's attempts to identify the source of the anomalies were, to their amusement and slight regret, met with sophisticated evasion. His newly installed sensors, however finely tuned, were bypassed with practiced ease, their advanced understanding of energy fields allowing them to flow around the detection grids like water. The covert cameras, rather than capturing definitive images, recorded only fleeting blurs, momentary distortions in the visual feed, too indistinct to offer any real identification. He'd spend hours reviewing the recordings, his brow furrowed in frustration, seeing only phantom movements, wisps of light, and the occasional displaced leaf. The growing sense of being watched persisted, but the feeling wasn't one of malice or threat. Instead, it was accompanied by a strange, almost benevolent presence. He would sometimes find his tools subtly reorganized, a difficult knot in a climbing vine perfectly untangled, or a wilted plant miraculously revived overnight. Cale, reviewing the blurred footage of nothing, began to wonder if his isolation was finally breeding hallucinations, or if he was, against all logic, truly not alone on this forgotten frontier world. The persistent mystery, a benevolent shadow in his pristine sanctuary, deepened into a tangible enigma. One afternoon, while checking a particularly sensitive filtration unit near the main entrance, Cale caught a flash of iridescent color snagged on a stray vine. He reached for it, his fingers closing around a piece of fabric unlike anything he had ever encountered. It shimmered with an otherworldly brilliance, catching the light in 1,000 tiny facets, yet felt impossibly soft against his skin, like spun moonlight. Clearly, this was not of human manufacture. The weave was intricate beyond comprehension, the material flowing and self-repairing even as he gently tugged at a microscopic snag. This was alien, undeniably so, and its presence sent a jolt of both excitement and trepidation through him. The anomalies were no longer mere suggestions. They were leaving physical evidence. A few days later, while meticulously cleaning his workbench, a task he now undertook with an almost archaeological zeal, hoping for another clue, his fingers brushed against a small, smooth object tucked beneath a pile of data pads. It was a device, no larger than his thumb, crafted from a dark, obsidian-like material that seemed to absorb all light. There were no visible seams, no buttons, no obvious purpose. Yet, as he held it, he felt a faint hum, a subtle energetic pulse, resonating within his palm. This was no simple trinket. Its design bespoke a sophisticated understanding of subtle energy manipulation, far beyond anything he'd ever seen in human tech. His heart hammered in his chest. This discarded object, undoubtedly alien, confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was not alone. The being or beings sharing his biodome were intelligent, technologically advanced, and now, undeniably real. The unease that had settled in his gut transformed into a profound, almost dizzying sense of anticipation. That night sleep proved elusive. The shimmering fabric and the humming device lay on his bedside table, stark reminders of the impossible reality unfolding around him. He found himself wandering through the moonlit corridors of his biodome, drawn by an invisible pull towards the vast, bioluminescent garden. The air was thick with the sweet, unidentifiable aroma. As he rounded a cluster of towering, glowing fungi, a movement in his peripheral vision froze him mid-step. A fleeting glimpse, a streak of impossible grace, a form too fluid, too fast, too ethereal to be human. It was gone before his mind could fully process it, a mere whisper of motion in the shadows. His breath caught in his throat. Fear, primal and cold, snaked its way up his spine, but it was quickly tempered by something else. A profound, aching loneliness that he hadn't realized was there suddenly intensified, a yearning for connection with this unseen, magical presence. He stood there for a long time, listening to the gentle hum of the biodome, the rustle of unseen leaves, and the frantic pounding of his own heart. From a hidden alcove, Ryla and Sola watched Kale's reaction, their own forms cloaked by the ambient bioluminescence. Ryla felt a surge of concern at his fear, while Sola, ever the more empathetic, felt a pang for his profound isolation. They had observed him for cycles, studying his meticulous routines, his quiet dedication to the xenobotanicals, his solitary existence. They saw his kindness, his gentle hands, the way he would talk to his plants as if they were old friends. He was a creature of immense vulnerability, yet possessed an inner strength that resonated deeply with their own empathetic senses. His dedication, his meticulous care, his silent strength in the face of such profound solitude, it tugged at their very core. They felt a deep, almost maternal pull towards him, an urge to nurture and protect. He was a being of quiet beauty, a rare bloom in their vast, nomadic existence. They had begun leaving small gifts, for him, gestures of nascent affection and care. A rare, perfectly symmetrical seed pod, its surface shimmering like polished jade, appeared on his data console one morning. He'd marveled at its intricate design, carefully placing it in a specimen jar. Other times he would find a cluster of perfectly ripened, incredibly sweet fruits, their skins iridescent, delicately placed beside his morning nutrient paste. These offerings, always appearing when he was absent, were meant to convey their benevolence, their silent appreciation. They watched him pick up the shimmering fabric, his wonder almost palpable. They saw him discover the energy manipulator, his curiosity burning bright. And they had felt his fear, but also his awe, his profound loneliness. The emotional connection to this solitary human was growing, weaving itself into the very fabric of their being, deepening with each passing interaction. They knew, with an intuitive certainty, that their initial curiosity had blossomed into something far more profound. His secret was safe with them, and they were determined to protect him, even from themselves. Kale's investigation deepened, his scientific curiosity overriding his initial fear. The shimmering fabric, once just a curious textile, underwent rigorous analysis in his compact lab. He discovered it possessed advanced bioluminescent properties, not merely reflecting light but actively generating a gentle, pulsating glow, hinting at complex organic or synthetic origins. Its molecular structure was unlike anything recorded in human databases, exhibiting self-repairing capabilities at a rate that defied current scientific understanding. The small, obsidian-like device, which still hummed faintly in his palm, revealed an even more astonishing secret. When connected to his most sensitive energy scanner, It displayed a highly sophisticated energy signature, not electrical or magnetic in any conventional sense, but something almost biological, capable of subtle energy manipulation and field generation. This wasn't a simple intrusion by primitive aliens. This was a deliberate, intelligent presence, technologically advanced beyond even the cutting edge of human development. He realized this wasn't mere curiosity on their part. It was a purposeful, calculated interaction. Meanwhile, the unseen sisters, Ryla and Sola, continued their gentle, secret interventions in Kale's life, their affection for him growing with each passing day. They observed his struggles, his moments of frustration with failing equipment, his quiet dedication. Their advanced empathetic senses allowed them to perceive his needs almost before he recognized them himself. They began to optimize his habitat's energy flow, subtly recalibrating the solar collectors and atmospheric processors to run with greater efficiency, reducing his power consumption by significant margins. His beloved plants, already thriving under his care, received an extra boost. The sisters delicately introduced trace elements and biostimulants, enhancing their growth rates and the vibrancy of their colors, causing rare blooms to erupt prematurely. Even minor equipment malfunctions, like a stubborn sensor array or a clogged nutrient feeder, found themselves mysteriously mended overnight, the issue resolved with an invisible precision that left Kale scratching his head in puzzlement. To them, Kale was a precious, delicate creature, a rare and beautiful bloom in their vast, lonely universe, and they nurtured him with an unspoken tenderness. Kale, ever the meticulous scientist, began to notice these serendipitous improvements. His power logs showed consistent, unexplainable reductions in energy consumption. His plants, already robust, were flourishing with an unprecedented vigor, their leaves greener, their blossoms more profuse. The minor glitches that had plagued his older equipment simply vanished, replaced by smooth, uninterrupted operation. He noted these positive changes and, slowly, began to connect them to the unknown presence. The fear that had initially gripped him following the fleeting glimpse of the ethereal figure began to subside, replaced by a profound curiosity and a cautious, almost giddy hope. This wasn't a threat, this was an aid. This wasn't hostile, it was benevolent. He started to recognize the pattern, the small, artistic carvings, the perfect fruits, the mended equipment, the enhanced plant growth, all subtle acts of kindness. He realized they weren't just observing him, they were caring for him. A profound shift occurred within Kale. The lingering shadow of loneliness, a constant companion since his orphanhood, began to recede, replaced by a warmth he hadn't known was possible. He no longer felt like a solitary caretaker in a vast, empty world. He felt attended to. In a tentative, almost ritualistic gesture, he began to leave out offerings of his own. Freshly picked, fragrant flowers from his garden were arranged on his workbench, alongside meticulously prepared nutrient paste, his finest blend, infused with a rare, sweet-smelling herb. He would leave them in prominent, yet undisturbed, locations, hoping they would be received as a gesture of peace, a silent acknowledgement of the benevolent presence. He was reaching out, tentatively, into the unknown, hoping for a connection, a bridge built not of words, but of shared gestures of care and respect. The biodome, once his sanctuary from the world, was slowly transforming into a silent, shared home. The delicate fragrance of the freshly picked, rare aster, its petals a vibrant azure against the deep green stem, diffused through the twilight air of the biodome. Kale carefully placed it on a small, polished stone on his porch, a silent offering, a hopeful invitation. The nutrient paste, a rich, earthy brown, sat beside it in a pristine ceramic bowl. With a final, hesitant glance, he retreated into the shadows of his living quarters, positioning himself near a wide panoramic window that offered a clear, yet discreet, view. His heart thrummed an anxious rhythm against his ribs, a mixture of fear and exhilaration churning within him. He waited, breath held, the silence of the biodome amplifying the quiet anticipation. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, a flicker of movement. From the periphery of his vision, a shimmering form detached itself from the camouflaged foliage. It moved with an ethereal grace, silent as falling starlight, its elegant silhouette barely disturbing the ambient light. Cale watched, mesmerized, as one of the figures, taller and perhaps a little more hesitant than the other he had glimpsed, approached the porch. Its movements were slow, deliberate, as if assessing the space for any hidden threat. It paused before the aster, its head tilting almost imperceptibly. A slender, luminous hand reached out, its touch feather-light, and gently took the flower. The gesture was one of reverence, not possession. Then, with an equally delicate movement, the being placed a small object where the aster had rested. A soft, internal glow emanated from it, casting iridescent patterns on the polished stone. Just as silently, as gracefully, the figure retreated, melting back into the lush alien flora. Cale watched until the last trace of its presence vanished, his heart pounding a triumphant drumbeat. He had seen it. They had accepted his offering, and left one of their own in return. Over the next few days, this silent exchange became a ritual, a delicate dance of trust and acknowledgement. Cale would leave a perfectly ripe fruit, a unique seed, or a drawing he had sketched, depicting the flora of his biodome. In return, he would find small, glowing crystals that pulsed with soothing warmth, intricate carvings on polished wood, or delicate, spun metal artifacts that defied earthly craftsmanship. Each gift was carefully chosen, a nonverbal message understood on an emotional level. Trust, a fragile yet potent bridge, was slowly being built between Cale and the unseen entities. He stopped trying to capture them on camera, stopped trying to analyze their every move. Instead, he simply observed, felt, and responded. He began to understand that these beings were not a threat, not even mere curious observers, but something far more profound, something that resonated with the deepest parts of his being. The loneliness, once a defining aspect of his life, began to dissipate, replaced by a subtle, comforting sense of companionship. The sisters, Ryla and Sola, the graceful figures Cale had now, however fleetingly, encountered, shared a triumphant, silent resonance upon receiving Cale's offerings. He was responding, accepting their presence, reciprocating their care. Their culture, vast and ancient, was one of profound reverence for all life, especially for unique and emotionally resonant beings. They were part of a nomadic tribe that traversed the galaxy, not as conquerors or colonizers, but as guardians and nurturers of endangered ecosystems and sentient life. They had stumbled upon Cale by chance, drawn by the unusual energetic signature of his biodome and the pure, almost crystalline emotional resonance of his solitary existence. He was a beacon of quiet kindness, a soul untainted by the usual galactic strife they encountered. They had recognized his innate goodness, his gentle spirit, and in their ancient cultural tradition, they had adopted him into their silent protection. He was their charge, their discovery, their gentle human. His secret was their sacred trust, and they would guard it fiercely. They knew, intuitively, that their bond with Cale transcended mere observation. It was a deep, familial connection that had formed beyond the boundaries of species and culture. Their silent care had blossomed into profound affection. The sisters' profound affection mirrored Cale's burgeoning sense of belonging as he gradually began to learn their subtle communication methods. It wasn't through spoken words, for their vocalizations were a complex interplay of chimes and trills beyond his human auditory range, but through something far more intuitive and intimate. They used light patterns, a language woven from iridescent flickers and undulating glows that conveyed complex emotions and ideas. A soft, pulsing amber might signify contentment, while a rapid, shimmering violet could communicate urgency. He learned to read their nuanced scent, a delicate, floral aroma that shifted with their moods, becoming sweeter with happiness, sharper with concern. Most profoundly, he discovered their gentle psionic nudges, a soft brush against his thoughts, a subtle redirection of his attention, a shared feeling of calm or excitement that bypassed the need for verbal exchange entirely. Through these ethereal interactions, he learned their names, Ryla and Sola, and the depth of their protective nature, a warmth that enveloped him completely. He had never known such a profound, unconditional connection, a bond that transcended species and origin, sinking deep into the lonely recesses of his heart. It was during one of these silent, shared moments, amidst the tranquil bioluminescence of his biodome, that Kale experienced the most profound cultural exchange. Ryla and Sola led him to a hidden grotto within their secret sanctuary, a chamber pulsating with vibrant, alien flora he had never seen before. Here, they performed what he came to understand as a feeding ritual, the core of the human-fed aspect of their unique bond. They presented him with a small, glowing chalice filled with a thick, iridescent liquid. It was their own highly refined, energy-rich plant-based nutrients, a sacred elixir derived from the heart of their advanced botanical knowledge. This was not merely sustenance. It was an offering of self, a sacred act of care and familial bonding within their culture, reserved for those they cherished most deeply. Kale hesitated for a moment, sensing the immense significance of the gesture. He looked into Sola's luminous eyes, then Ryla's, and saw nothing but profound love and acceptance. He took the chalice, the warmth of the liquid seeping into his hands, and drank. The taste was unlike anything he had ever experienced, subtly sweet, earthy, and invigorating, filling him with a gentle, humming energy that settled deep within his bones. He felt an overwhelming sense of belonging, a nourishment that went far beyond the physical. It was an embrace, a silent declaration that he was now one of them, cherished and cared for. This intimate act sealed their connection, a bridge built not of words, but of shared sacred sustenance and unconditional love. It was a profound, intimate cultural exchange, a recognition of kinship that transcended the vast chasm between their species. As days eased into weeks, Kale found himself spending more and more time in their hidden sanctuary, a vibrant, alien ecosystem within the larger biodome. It was a place of breathtaking beauty, where gravity seemed to bend around ethereal structures woven from living light, and plants conversed in silent symphonies of color. Here, Ryla and Sola meticulously shared their knowledge, teaching him about their advanced botanical technologies, the subtle art of energy manipulation, and the serene way of life that guided their nomadic tribe. He learned to distinguish the nuances of alien flora, to sense the deep-seated energies of the world around him, and to communicate through the silent language of touch and emotion. He discovered that their technology wasn't merely advanced, it was integrated, symbiotic, an extension of their living environment. He marveled at their ability to shape and nurture life, a mastery that made his own xenobotanical efforts seem rudimentary in comparison. Kale's world expanded exponentially within this secret haven. He wasn't just a human living in a biodome anymore. He was a student, a cherished companion, an integral part of a burgeoning, interspecies family. The sisters' presence, once a benevolent mystery, had become a comforting constant, a profound anchor in his solitary existence. He understood their silent protection, their gentle interventions, their sacred offering. What began as curiosity and concern had blossomed into a deep, unwavering affection, a silent promise of belonging. He was no longer just Kale, the lone human xenobotanist. He was Kale, cherished by Ryla and Sola, deeply integrated into their secret world, forever bound by unspoken vows and the shared, sacred sustenance that now flowed within him. His integration into their serene way of life was complete, a quiet testament to a connection forged in the heart of an alien wilderness. The shared sacred sustenance, and the silent language of touch and emotion deepened the bond between Kale and the sisters until it became something unbreakable, a unique family forged across the vast chasm of species difference. They spent countless hours in the vibrant heart of the sanctuary, sharing silent moments of profound connection that transcended any need for human language. Kale found himself communicating not just through the light patterns and psionic nudges Ryla and Sola employed, but through the very essence of their beings. He learned to feel their joy, their contentment, and their subtle shifts of awareness, understanding them on an emotional level that bypassed words entirely. This connection was a revelation, filling a void he hadn't fully realized existed until now, replacing his long-held solitude with a comforting, resonant presence. He was no longer an orphan of a forgotten conflict, but a cherished member of a family that had chosen him. Every glance, every shared breath in the oxygen-rich air of their hidden grotto, reaffirmed this profound kinship. One cycle, as Kale was delicately pruning a vine that pulsed with rhythmic light, he felt a sudden, sharp jolt of alarm from Sola, a ripple of distress that cut through their usual placid connection. Ryla, normally the calm observer, emitted a series of rapid, urgent light patterns, her usually serene aura shimmering with anxiety. Cale looked up, his movements stilling, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He didn't need words to understand. Danger was imminent. The sisters' complex sensory network, an extension of their heightened awareness, an advanced technology, had detected something, a distant energy signature, faint but unmistakable. Ryla moved swiftly to a crystalline console embedded in the living wall of the grotto, her slender fingers dancing over its surface, pulling up a holographic map of their solar system. A small, pulsing red dot appeared on the screen, moving with alarming speed towards their current location. Cale watched, his breath catching in his throat, as the sisters exchanged a series of intense, silent communications. He felt the fear emanating from them, a visceral, chilling wave that settled deep within him. He followed Ryla's gaze to the red dot, then back to their faces. He still didn't understand the specifics, but the gravity of the situation was palpable. The signature, Ryla communicated through a series of urgent psionic nudges, was one they recognized. It was their tribe, or more precisely, a scouting party. The realization hit Cale with the force of a physical blow. Their tribe. The very beings from whom Ryla and Sola had so carefully hidden him. This was not a welcome reunion. This was an intrusion, a potential catastrophe for their carefully constructed, secret life. The joyful sense of belonging he had just moments ago felt fragile, threatened by this external force. A wave of palpable fear and urgency emanated from Ryla and Sola, washing over Cale and intensifying his own growing apprehension. He could sense their internal conflict, a maelstrom of conflicting loyalties and profound concern. The dilemma was stark and immediate. Their tribe's laws were ancient and strict, codified through millennia of galactic travels and interactions. They forbade unauthorized contact with unknown species, especially when it involved such deep emotional entanglement. The very existence of Cale, a human, living within their sacred communal spaces and partaking in their most intimate cultural rites, the feeding ritual, was an egregious violation of these tenets. It was an act of profound defiance, an unspoken rebellion against their established order. Ryla and Sola were torn between their innate tribal duty and their fierce, protective love for Cale. They knew, with a certainty that chilled Cale to his core, that his existence must remain a secret. The implications of his discovery by their tribe were catastrophic, not only for Cale, but for Ryla and Sola themselves. The punishment for such transgressions, Cale understood through their mental projections, could be severe, potentially leading to ostracization, or worse, forced separation from the collective, a fate akin to death for their communally wired species. The serene, hidden world they had built together, nurturing plants and emotions, was now threatened by the very people Ryla and Sola had been born to. The warm embrace of family had suddenly been overshadowed by the cold shadow of tribal law, forcing them into an impossible choice. Their vibrant light patterns flickered erratically, reflecting the turmoil within their hearts. The peaceful harmony of the biodome was shattered by the impending arrival, and Cale felt a profound responsibility, a desperate need to protect the two beings who had given him a home. The approaching red dot on the holographic map solidified into a tangible threat as a small, highly advanced scout ship from the sisters' tribe subtly landed on the planet's surface. It touched down with barely a whisper, a considerable distance from Cale's biodome, its sleek, organic contours blending seamlessly with the alien landscape. A palpable sense of unease rippled through Cale, transmitted directly from Ryla and Sola. The tribal ship was a marvel of biological engineering, its surface shimmering with adaptive camouflage, designed for stealth and precision. From its hatch emerged a single figure, tall and austere, radiating an aura of ancient authority. This was Xyler, a revered elder of their nomadic tribe, known for his stoic demeanor and an almost supernatural ability to sense anomalies in the natural order, an ability that now focused intently on their planet. Xyler, even from this distance, perceived a faint, yet persistent, energetic ripple, a discordant note in the otherwise pristine harmony of the uninhabited world. It was a subtle anomaly, but for his species, it was enough to warrant investigation, a prickle of unease that suggested something was not as it should be. Ryla and Sola, sensing Xyler's arrival and his uncanny perceptiveness, sprang into desperate action. Their bodies radiated urgency as they activated a complex network of cloaking fields and defensive measures around Kale's biodome. The air around them shimmered, distorting light and energy, attempting to mask Kale's presence and, more critically, their prolonged, unsanctioned absence from the tribal collective. Their intricate technology, usually employed for environmental manipulation and subtle communication, was now repurposed for deception, straining under the immense demand. They worked with a frantic intensity, their luminous hands dancing over crystalline consoles, weaving a complex illusion designed to fool even the most advanced tribal sensors. Simultaneously, they attempted to communicate with their tribe through their shared psionic network, sending vague, deliberately misleading messages about an unforeseen atmospheric anomaly that required their prolonged study, hoping to buy precious time. Every flicker of their light patterns, every subtle shift in their scent, betrayed their immense stress. Kale, standing amidst the sudden flurry of activity, felt the sisters' distress like a physical blow. He understood the gravity of the situation without a single spoken word. Their urgent light patterns, sharp and erratic, coupled with their frenzied movements, communicated the imminent danger with chilling clarity. Ryla, in a rare moment of direct visual communication, projected an image into his mind, a vast, unyielding tribal ship, its presence radiating stern authority, and the stern, unblinking eyes of Xyler. She explained, through a series of rapid, urgent psionic nudges, that their tribe's strict laws might not understand their bond, that his very existence could be perceived as a profound transgression. His quiet life, his peaceful sanctuary, was now threatened by an ancient cultural dictum that saw him not as a cherished friend, but as a dangerous anomaly. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Kale's heart, but it was not the paralyzing terror he had known before. This fear was intertwined with a fierce loyalty, a protective instinct born from the deep bonds he had forged. He looked at Ryla and Sola, their forms shimmering with a desperate resolve, their faces etched with profound worry, and he knew, with an absolute certainty, that he trusted them completely. They had sheltered him, cared for him, and nurtured the deepest parts of his soul. Now, it was his turn to trust them to navigate this treacherous path. He offered a silent nod, a gesture of unwavering support, understanding that his role now was to follow their lead, to become as invisible as possible, and to place his safety entirely in their capable, luminous hands. His heart ached for them, knowing the immense risk they were taking on his behalf, solidifying his resolve to face whatever came, together. The arrival of Xyler's scout team was not a subtle affair, despite the tribal ship's advanced stealth capabilities. Kale, nestled deep within a cloaked section of the biodome, felt the vibrational hum of their probes as they sliced through the atmosphere, invisible yet undeniably present. Ryla and Sola, their forms almost translucent with strain, worked frantically at the central console. The air around them crackled with suppressed energy, the cloaking fields demanding every ounce of their technological and psionic prowess. Kale watched, his breath shallow, as a holographic display flickered, showing the probe's trajectories. They were methodical, precise, sweeping the terrain with an almost surgical thoroughness. Xyler, the elder, was clearly not one to overlook a single anomaly. The scout team closed in, their automated probes mapping the terrain, their sensors pinging against the biodome's meticulously crafted cloaking field. Kale heard the faint, high-pitched whine of their detection arrays, a sound that seemed to vibrate directly in his bones. He pressed himself further into the shadowed recess, the rich, familiar scent of alien flora now mixed with the acrid undertone of straining energy fields. Ryla and Sola communicated through a rapid exchange of light and emotional nudges, their urgency bordering on desperation. They funneled more energy, more conscious effort, into maintaining the illusion of an empty sector. Kale could feel the immense pressure they were under, a palpable weight that threatened to crush the very air from his lungs. He was terrified, not just for himself, but for them, for the unbearable weight of the choice they had made to protect him. A probe, a sleek, insectal drone, drifted unnervingly close to the outer shell of the biodome, its multifaceted optical sensors sweeping over the cloak's surface. Cale held his breath, his eyes glued to the holographic feed, watching its progress with agonizing slowness. For a moment, it seemed to pause, its sensors focusing on a particularly ornate section of the biodome's skin, a place where the cloaking field was stretched thin. Ryla cursed under her breath, a low, guttural trill that resonated with frustration and fear. Sola immediately reinforced that section, a visible ripple of energy passing over the holographic projection. The drone, seemingly satisfied, continued its methodical sweep, moving away from the immediate perimeter. Cale exhaled slowly, a shaky breath, the near miss leaving him trembling. The pressure on the sisters was immense, a crushing weight that threatened to unravel their carefully constructed facade. Cale could feel their emotional turmoil, a chaotic blend of fear, determination, and a searing loyalty that transcended even their deepest tribal conditioning. They feared not only for Cale's life and freedom should his existence be discovered, but also for their own. Tribal law was absolute, its traditions unyielding. The consequences of their actions, of harboring an unsanctioned species, of sharing their sacred sustenance, were severe. Ostracization, banishment, or worse, the severing of their communal bond, any of these fates would be devastating for them. Yet, despite the terrifying prospect, their love for Cale drove their desperate defense. It was a fierce, unwavering commitment, a silent promise whispered across the species barrier. Sola's light patterns, usually a fluid dance of soft hues, now flickered with a harsh, almost jagged intensity. Her empathy, usually a source of comfort and connection, was now a raw nerve, absorbing Cale's fear and amplifying her own. Ryla, typically the more stoic of the two, radiated a fierce protectiveness that bordered on aggressive. Every fiber of their beings was dedicated to safeguarding Cale, weaving a shield of energetic deception around him. Cale understood, through their shared consciousness, that this wasn't merely about protecting him from discovery. It was about protecting their shared future, the fragile, beautiful family they had unknowingly built. Their current strained efforts were not just for Cale's concealment, but a desperate battle against the impending judgment of their own kind, a tribal elder who would undoubtedly sense their emotional distress and the powerful secret they so desperately guarded. The intensity of their combined will was a tangible force in the enclosed space, a testament to the depth of their bond. Xyler, the tribal elder, felt a persistent prickle of unease, a discordant note in the planet's otherwise pristine energetic signature. He had observed his two nieces, Ryla and Sola, for centuries, and their current communications, though superficially calm, contained a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor of distraction, a slight hesitation in their psionic responses that was entirely uncharacteristic. His senses, honed over countless cycles of observation and meditation, could detect emotional resonance even across vast interstellar distances. Their messages about an unforeseen atmospheric anomaly felt rehearsed, lacking the spontaneous scientific enthusiasm he usually associated with their xenobotanical explorations. He suspected they were hiding something significant, an intuition that had rarely failed him. The data from the scout probes, which should have been unremarkable for an uninhabited world, also presented subtle inconsistencies, micro-variations in the atmospheric composition and faint, non-native thermal readings that his advanced analysis protocols flagged as anomalous. He saw a pattern emerging, a tapestry of subtle deceptions. As the cloaking field around Cale's biodome stretched to its very limits, strained by the relentless probing of Xyler's scout drones and the sisters' desperate efforts, a minuscule, but critical, flaw emerged. For a fleeting instant, a warp in the energy field caused a momentary flicker, a blink in the invisible shield. In that microsecond, a vibrant, glowing alien flora, part of Cale's meticulously cultured garden, was briefly revealed to the sophisticated optical sensors of a passing scout drone. It was a plant native to a distant, gas-giant moon, its bioluminescence unmistakable. The drone registered it, a blip of non-native biological matter in a supposedly barren sector. The data flowed instantly back to Xyler's ship, where it was cross-referenced with his existing suspicions. The atmospheric anomaly was a lie, There was a contained ecosystem down there, deliberately hidden. The information coalesced in Xyler's mind with chilling clarity. His nieces were not merely exploring, they were concealing. And what they were concealing was significant enough to risk tribal censure. The combination of their emotional distress, the fabricated reports, and now the undeniable evidence of exotic life within a cloaked area, confirmed his deepest misgivings. This was no longer a matter for remote investigation, it required direct intervention. Xyler, a being of immense wisdom and unyielding principle, made a decisive choice. He would not violate the cloaking field with force. Such an act would be an admission of hostility and a violation of their code. Instead, he would send a direct, diplomatic envoy to the sisters, a personal delegation. He would bypass their technological efforts to maintain secrecy and confront them directly. He would demand to understand what they were protecting, what secret had driven Ryla and Sola, his own nieces, to such unprecedented lengths of deception. His stern features hardened with resolve. The stern features of Xyler hardened with resolve, his decision made. He would bypass their technological efforts to maintain secrecy and confront them directly. He would understand what they were protecting, what secret had driven Ryla and Sola, his own nieces, to such unprecedented lengths of deception. A small craft, almost as elegant as the scout ship but designed for personal transit, detached from the main vessel. Inside, Xyler sat, his gaze fixed on the coordinates of the hidden biodome, his mind already formulating the delicate yet firm questions he would pose. His retinue, two silent, imposing guards, stood at attention, their expressions impassive. There was no aggression in Xyler's approach, only an unwavering determination to uncover the truth and uphold the integrity of tribal law. He sought understanding, but he would not tolerate deceit. Cale felt a sudden, profound shift in the energy around the biodome. The constant, buzzing strain of the cloaking field eased slightly, replaced by an even more ominous quiet. The urgent, frantic light patterns from Ryla and Sola softened into a more controlled, yet deeply anxious, shimmer. Through their mental connection, Cale sensed Xyler's approach, not as a technological signature, but as a powerful, ancient presence, radiating authority and unyielding wisdom. The hidden cameras, now temporarily uncloaked by the sisters' strategic energy redirection, showed the small, elegant craft settling gently on the ground just outside the biodome's perimeter. Xyler stepped out, followed by his two guards. He stood tall, his silvery blue skin shimmering faintly in the ambient light, his gaze unwavering as it pierced the last vestiges of the cloaking field. Ryla and Sola exchanged a series of rapid, desperate light patterns, their decision made. They had no choice but to partially lower the field, revealing themselves to their elder, but still concealing Cale within the deeper recesses of the biodome. With a collective surge of psionic effort, the shimmering distortion around a section of the biodome's entrance flickered, then vanished, revealing Ryla and Sola standing side by side, their forms radiating a mixture of defiance and profound respect. The vibrant alien flora of their hidden sanctuary, now exposed in the background, was a testament to their long, unsanctioned stay. Xyler's eyes, ancient and piercing, swept over them, then over the exotic botanical life behind them. His expression remained unreadable, but Cale felt a wave of intense scrutiny, even from his hidden vantage point. Ryla, taking the lead, her voice a series of melodic chimes that Cale could only sense as emotional resonance, began to speak to their elder. She attempted to explain their prolonged stay with vague, carefully constructed references to ongoing xenobotanical research, citing rare new species and complex bioluminescent cycles that required continuous observation. Sola supported her, projecting carefully curated images of intricate plant structures and energy transference phenomena into Xyler's mind, hoping to provide a credible scientific justification for their disobedience. But their emotional distress was evident, a raw, undeniable current that pulsed around them, defying their carefully chosen words and mental projections. Cale, observing from within, could feel their thinly veiled desperation, the tremor in their meticulously crafted illusions. Xyler listened intently, his gaze never leaving his nieces. He absorbed their explanations, weighed their scientific data, But his true faculty, his ability to sense powerful emotional resonance, was working overtime. He perceived the immense internal conflict, the stark fear beneath their calm exterior, the fervent protectiveness that radiated from them like a tangible shield. He knew, with absolute certainty, that their words were incomplete, that the truth lay buried beneath a mountain of carefully constructed half-truths. The intensity of their emotional projection, far from convincing him, only deepened his suspicion. They were protecting something, or someone, and the depth of their emotional investment hinted at a secret far more profound than mere scientific anomaly. Cale, hidden within the now partially exposed biodome, heard the tense exchange, or rather, felt it through the sisters' raw emotions. He understood the desperate game they were playing, the immense risk they were taking. Each of their projected explanations, each shimmering image of botanical discovery, was a lie, a sacrifice of their own integrity, all for him. He felt their fear, their love, and their unwavering resolve to protect him, no matter the cost. A new kind of fear, hot and intense, coursed through him, not fear for himself, but for them. He couldn't let them bear this burden alone. He was no longer the frightened, solitary human. He was a cherished member of their family, and he would not hide while they faced condemnation for his sake. A surge of courage, born of love and loyalty, replaced his earlier apprehension. He knew what he had to do. The time for hiding was over. His heart pounded with newfound resolve, a silent declaration that he would stand by them. The time for hiding was over. His heart pounded with newfound resolve, a silent declaration that he would stand by them. With a deep breath that tasted of both fear and purpose, Cale stepped out from the shadows. The vibrant alien flora that had shielded him just moments before now parted, revealing his human form to the gasping tribal envoys and, most importantly, to Xylar. The elder's ancient eyes, which had been fixed intently on Ryla and Sola, widened almost imperceptibly, registering the unexpected intrusion. A collective intake of breath swept through the small retinue of guards, their impassive faces momentarily betraying shock at the sight of the unexpected, bipedal figure in their midst. Cale felt like a spotlight had been thrown upon him, every nerve screaming with exposure, yet an unshakable sense of rightness settled over him. He met Xylar's gaze directly, his posture one of defiance mingled with an earnest, unwavering sincerity. He would not allow Ryla and Sola to face this alone. Xylar's initial shock quickly transformed into an intense, almost palpable curiosity. His gaze, usually so penetrating, now seemed to soften, exploring Cale's features, his human form, his simple, worn clothes. He sensed no malice radiating from Cale, no aggression or deceit. Instead, what Xylar perceived was a profound sincerity, an undeniable purity of intention that resonated deeply within the elder's empathetic core. More strikingly, Xylar's senses picked up an overwhelming, almost incandescent emotional resonance flowing between Cale and his nieces. He could feel the sisters' relief, their fear now tempered by an immense pride and a fierce, unwavering protective instinct towards this human. He recognized the deep, interwoven threads of connection, a bond so powerful it defied the very laws of their tribe, yet felt utterly authentic. This was not a captive, nor an intruder, but something far more, integrated. The sudden revelation of Cale's presence, and the sheer audacity of his appearance, broke Ryla and Sola. They had held their composure through immense strain, but seeing Cale stand tall and unyielding, risking everything for them, shattered their carefully constructed facade. Their light patterns, no longer frantic or deceptive, burst forth in a raw, emotional display of swirling colors, sorrow, love, fear, and an overwhelming surge of protectiveness. Sola stepped forward, her voice trembling with barely suppressed emotion, her words translating through a series of rapidly projected images and psionic nudges that conveyed the truth Cale had long sensed. She explained their bond, their accidental discovery of Cale's profound isolation, a solitary existence that had stirred their deepest empathetic instincts. They revealed their cultural imperative to nurture and protect unique life forms, a tenet that had driven them to take Cale under their wing. Ryla joined her, her own light patterns interweaving with Sola's, detailing Cale's gentle spirit, his dedication to the Xenobotanicals, and his innate kindness. They confessed to the feeding, the sharing of their most sacred nutrients, not as an act of defiance, but as a pure, instinctual symbol of their familial bond, their adoption of Kale into the very heart of their being. They spoke of the deep connection he had brought into their lives, the emotional resonance he offered, something they had not fully realized they craved until he became a part of their existence. Their confession was not an apology. It was a testament to love, a plea for understanding, laid bare before their elder and their tribe. The biodome, once a shroud of secrets, now echoed with the raw, emotional truth of their shared existence. They poured out their hearts, their fear for Kale's safety evident, their love for him shining like a beacon. Xyler grappled with the profound contradiction laid bare before him. On one hand, the strictures of tribal law echoed in his ancient consciousness, a symphony of generations-old precedents that forbade unauthorized contact, condemned cultural blending, and considered the sacred act of feeding an outsider an almost unspeakable transgression. The weight of tradition, of order, pressed heavily upon him. Yet, on the other hand, he sensed an equally profound, undeniable emotional truth emanating from Ryla and Sola, a pure, unadulterated love that pulsed with an intensity he rarely encountered. He observed Kale, the human, standing resolute yet vulnerable, radiating a quiet dignity that was undeniably compelling. This was no mere curiosity or fleeting fascination. This was a deep, interwoven tapestry of connection, rich with an emotional resonance that spoke volumes beyond any tribal decree. Kale, sensing the elder's internal conflict, stepped forward, communicating not through words, for he knew Xyler would not understand his tongue, but through the shared emotions and the sisters' subtle interpretations. With their combined psionic nudges, he expressed his overwhelming gratitude for Ryla and Sola's unwavering protection, for their gentle care, and for the profound sense of belonging they had given him. He radiated his deep respect for their culture, for their reverence of life, and for the wisdom he had glimpsed within their hidden sanctuary. He showed them, through a series of projected emotions that the sisters amplified, how he had integrated their ways into his life, his meticulous care for the xenobotanicals, now imbued with a deeper understanding of their symbiotic relationships, his newfound appreciation for the subtle energies that permeated their world, and the unshakable peace he had found within their unique family unit. He was not a mere recipient of their kindness, he had become a part of their existence, enriched and transformed by their presence. As Kale's earnest emotions flowed through the sisters and into Xyler's receptive mind, the elder's stern facade began to subtly crack. He saw not a breach of law, but a testament to the very spirit of his people. He perceived that this was not a violation of their ancient tenets of nurturing life, but an expansion of it, a natural flourishing of their core values in an unforeseen direction. The profound positive impact Kale had clearly had on Ryla and Sola was undeniable. Their emotional vibrance, their unwavering determination to protect him, and the sheer depth of their love, spoke volumes. Xyler sensed that Kale had brought a unique, gentle light into their lives, fostering a strength and resolve within them that transcended mere adherence to rules. A glimmer of hope, soft as the bioluminescent flora around them, began to bloom within the elder's wise, ancient heart. Perhaps, just perhaps, this human was not a threat to their tribe's integrity, but a pathway to a deeper understanding of life itself. The rigid framework of tribal law, for the first time in a very long time, felt less like an unshakable truth and more like a malleable guide capable of bending to accommodate the profound, undeniable truth of genuine connection. The rigid framework of tribal law, for the first time in a very long time, felt less like an unshakable truth and more like a malleable guide capable of bending to accommodate the profound, undeniable truth of genuine connection. After a period of quiet contemplation, a silence so profound it seemed to absorb the very light from the biodome, Xyler made a groundbreaking decision. His ancient form, usually so rigid, seemed to relax slightly, a subtle shift that indicated a resolution. He turned his gaze from Kale to Ryla and Sola, then back again, his eyes holding a depth of wisdom that spanned millennia. In a series of slow, resonant chimes, translated through the sisters' immediate and joyful psionic projections, he ruled that Kale, through his pure spirit, his undeniable sincerity, and the unyielding bond he had forged with Ryla and Sola, had been adopted into their extended family unit. This was not a mere pardon, it was an act of profound acceptance, a recognition that the spirit of their law, which honored life and connection, superseded the letter of its ancient decrees. The atmosphere in the biodome, thick with tension moments before, now resonated with a palpable sense of relief and burgeoning hope. Cale felt a wave of overwhelming gratitude wash over him, a warmth so intense it brought tears to his eyes. He looked at Ryla and Sola, their forms now glowing with an ethereal joy, and knew that this acceptance was not just for him, but for them, a validation of their love and courage. The initial wariness of the tribal envoys, who had watched the entire exchange with silent, stoic expressions, slowly began to dissipate. They were beings of order and tradition, but also of deep empathy, genetically predisposed to sense true emotional resonance. As Cale, no longer hidden, moved cautiously within the biodome, his gentle hands tending to a particularly delicate blooming xenobotanical, they began to observe him more closely. They witnessed the genuine affection and the care Cale had for Ryla and Sola, the way his eyes would seek them out, the subtle gestures of comfort he offered them after their immense ordeal. They saw his respect for their environment, his quiet dedication to the plants, his willingness to learn and adapt. He was not a conqueror, not a parasite, but a tender caretaker, a harmonious presence. The sisters, now openly radiating their love and pride for Cale, became living testaments to his benevolent nature. Their emotional vibrance, which had been so strained and muted, now shone with an unprecedented intensity, a clear indication of the profound positive impact he had on their well-being. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, then with growing warmth, acceptance began to bloom within the tribal envoys. They began to see Cale not as an alien, an outsider, but as an extension of Ryla and Sola's own vibrant existence, a new, unexpected facet of their extended family. In the days that followed, Cale was formally, though still quietly, introduced to the broader tribal collective. While still a unique presence, a being unlike any they had encountered before, he was welcomed as part of Ryla and Sola's family unit, his integration a testament to the tribe's remarkable adaptability and their deep-seated, inherent empathy. There were no grand ceremonies, no loud pronouncements, but a quiet, resonant acceptance that was far more meaningful. He spent time interacting with other members of the scouting party, communicating through the sisters' interpretations and his own burgeoning understanding of their emotive signals. He shared his knowledge of human botany and ecology, offering new perspectives and unique insights, while eagerly absorbing their ancient wisdom and advanced understanding of life. Cale was no longer alone. The vast, empty spaces of his life had been filled, not just with companionship, but with a profound sense of belonging. The biodome, once a solitary sanctuary, was now a vibrant hub of interspecies life, a testament to the unforeseen connections that could bloom when hearts were open. He had found a family in the most unexpected of places, a bond forged not by blood or species, but by shared empathy, courage, and unconditional love. His journey from loneliness to profound connection had culminated in this extraordinary acceptance, a new beginning where the future unfolded with endless possibilities, hand in hand with his chosen family. Cale found his place within the nomadic alien tribe, not as an adopted curiosity, but as an indispensable part of their evolving tapestry. His xenobotanical studies continued, now enriched by the sisters' ancient knowledge and the tribe's vast resources. He became a living bridge between human resourcefulness and alien wisdom, his human perspective offering unique insights into the flora of the worlds they encountered, while their advanced understanding of life cycles and symbiotic relationships refined his own practices. He taught them about the resilience of terrestrial plants, and they, in turn, introduced him to bioluminescent fungi that harvested starlight and sentient vines that communicated through resonant frequencies. Ryla and Sola, once facing tribal censure, were now celebrated for their profound empathy and the courage they displayed in following their hearts. Their connection to Cale was seen not as a transgression, but as a broadening of their cultural understanding, a testament to the tribe's capacity for growth and acceptance. The feeding ritual, once a secret, became a shared act of honor, symbolizing the deep interspecies bond they had forged. The story reached its emotional conclusion not with a dramatic parting, but with a quiet, profound tableau. Kale, Ryla, and Sola stood together in a new, shared garden, a sanctuary carved out of the tribe's mobile habitat, constantly moving through the void. This garden was a vibrant fusion of human and alien flora, a living testament to their blended family. Earth-native roses, their fragrance a nostalgic whisper of home, intertwined with glowing tendrils of Kale's biodome xenobotanicals, while the tribe's bioluminescent organisms pulsed in harmony with the gentle sway of human-cultivated lavender. Kale carefully pruned a hybrid plant, its leaves a familiar green but its flowers glowing with an ethereal, alien light, a symbol of the harmonious blend they represented. He was no longer just a human fed by alien sisters, a figure of isolated wonder. He was a cherished member of a loving, interspecies family, his laughter echoing softly in the biodome, mingling with the resonant chimes of Ryla and Sola. He had found his home, not in a place, but in the unconditional love and acceptance of these extraordinary beings. The profound loneliness that had shadowed his early life had completely dissipated, replaced by a deep, abiding sense of belonging. His family was not defined by species or origin, but by the shared rhythm of their hearts, the silent understanding that transcended words, and the boundless empathy that had bridged the vast chasm between their worlds. The stars outside the panoramic viewport of their garden seemed less distant, more welcoming, knowing that he faced them with his family beside him. Kale looked at Ryla and Sola, their luminous forms radiating contentment, and a quiet smile touched his lips. He had discovered that family could indeed be found in the most unexpected places, a testament to the boundless capacity for connection that existed across the cosmos. The journey had been long, fraught with uncertainty and fear, but the destination was more beautiful than he could have ever dreamed, a beacon of interspecies harmony shining brightly in the vast, complex tapestry of the galaxy. If this story touched your heart, like this video, share it with a friend, and let me know in the comments what you think about interspecies connections. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories.